Welcome back, everyone. Today we are focusing on service quality, a critical element in the hospitality industry. The overall topic is under the customer analytics, service quality, and we look into what a service quality means, how to measure it, and why it matters. So let's get started. So why is it important? First, service quality directly impacts guest satisfaction, loyalty, and in the end, of course, the business success. But it is not as straightforward as measuring tangible products, right? So, because services are intangible. So, how do you measure a smile or attentiveness? They are subjective. What one guest loves, another might dislike. Plus, they are variable. They changing across experiences, staff interaction. Even in the using the same server in 2 different days, you can come up with different results. Despite these challenges, mastering service quality gives business a significant competitive edge. Service quality is, like I said, a fundamental driver of guest satisfaction and business success. So, how we gonna measure this intangible, variable, highly dependent on guest expectation kind of approach? There are many different methods, but today we are going to highlight 4 key approaches to help hospitality manager assess and improve the service quality. First, if we're going to talk a little bit about the SERVQUAL, mostly in the identifying the gaps between what guest expects and what they actually experience, especially in the perception gap. I'm going to talk in a minute. Next one is customer satisfaction score. This is, of course, there is a customer satisfaction, but this is a little bit more the adding on top customer satisfaction. We calculate the scores. These methods also focus on evaluating specific interaction or touch points, and like for example, it tells us whatever guests are satisfied with particular service component, like check-in or housekeeping. After that, we are going to talk about Net Promoter Score. Unlike a customer satisfaction score, which looks at individual interaction, NPS measures guest loyalty and advocacy. It's as simple as asking the question, how likely are you to recommend our hotel to friend or colleagues? Beyond the structured approaches, business also use techniques such as mystery shopping and online reviews. I just want to give a little bit of information about them as well. So each of these methods serves a unique purpose, and often, if you can, combine multiple approaches to get comprehensive reviews of service quality gives the best result. Let's talk about the service gaps. In hospitality, service quality isn't just about delivering a great experience. It's about meeting or exceeding guest expectations. But often there is a disconnect between what guest expects and what they actually receive. These disconnects are known as service gaps. There are 5 key types of service gaps, each highlighting a different breakdown in this service process. There is more information about the SERVQUAL, but for the sake of this chapter, I don't want to get into too much detail. But overall, there are 5 types of service gaps. First one is the knowledge gap. This happens when management doesn't fully understand what guests expect. For example, hotel might assume guests care most about the luxury, but in reality, they might prioritize the fast check-ins, for example. Number 2 is the standards gap. This happens when a business understands guest expectations but doesn't set the right service standards to meet them. Like if hotel knows guests want quick room service but doesn't establish speed benchmarks for step. Like they need to create some kind of guidelines, some kind of service standards that the employee can follow. So then this gap happens. The next one is the delivery gap. Even when standard exists. Now, you have a knowledge, you create the standards, but they don't always translate into reality, right? A hotel might set a 10-minute response time for guest requests, but if staffs are overworked or untrained or not enough employees, actual service falls short. So you cannot deliver what you're supposed to deliver. Next one is what we call the communication gap. This happens when marketing messages or promises don't align with the actual experience. If resort, let's say, advertise 24/7 concierge service, but the concierge desk is empty at night, it leads to guest satisfaction. Basically, what you are saying you're going to do, you should do it. You have to be sure that your communication is or your promises follows what they experience. Now, last one is actually the focus of today's this video's topic is the perception gap. Sometimes, even when service is delivered correctly, guests perceive it differently. For instance, a guest might think service is slow just because a staff member looked inattentive, even if response times were on par. So basically, if you measure it correctly, I'm just making up this number, like the delivering certain items takes 60 seconds, which isn't what you're supposed to do. But if they look inattentive, basically perception of what customer expect, what customer perceive different, right? That's what create the perception gap. That's what we, in today's topic, we're going to talk about customer analytics and service quality topic. Now, like I said, here in this section, we're going to focus on perception gap. Once again, this gap happens when there is a mismatch between the service that is actually delivered and how guest perceives it. So even if a hotel meets all its service standards, guest perception may still be negative due to individual expectations, prior experiences, or even small details like body language and tone of voice. Like they feel like front desk person give them attitude, like just an idea. So to better understand and measure guest perception, we use the Rater framework, which breaks down service quality and perception gaps in the 5 key dimensions. First one is reliability. Can guests trust the business to deliver services as promised? For example, if hotel guarantees that 3 p.m. check-in, are rooms actually ready on time? 2 is the assurance. Do employees instill confidence through their knowledge, professionalism, and courtesy? Think about how front desk staff handle guest concerns. Are they informative and reassuring? Tangible. This refers to physical environment, including the cleanliness of rooms, the design of common areas, and even staff uniforms. Guests often judge service quality based on these visual and sensory cues. Empathy. Are guests treated as individuals with personalized care and attention? These are very basic things, but a hotel that remembers repeat guest room preference or dietary restriction is demonstrating strong empathy. Responsiveness. How quickly and effectively does the staff address guest needs? Promptly fixing a broken air conditioner, right, for example. And perception matters because it influences satisfaction more than service standards alone. Okay, so a guest might receive exactly what was promised, but if they feel ignored, disrespected, or inconvenienced, their satisfaction drops. That's why business need to measure perception, not just performance, and adjust their strategy accordingly. That's what the SERVQUAL actually measures. There is between how to measure, but there is a 17 to 22 questions. And considering that, because another video I'm going to talk about the service quality analytics and also some of the question examples there. But what we need to talk a little bit about what do you mean by surveys, because like SERVQUAL has been also measured by survey, right? So before we continue, let's take a moment to talk about surveys. One of the most important tools for collecting structured feedback is the survey. So survey allow businesses to capture guest experiences in a direct and measurable way. Unlike online reviews or mystery shopping, surveys give hospitality managers a systematic way to evaluate service quality across different touchpoints. But for surveys to be effective, they need well-designed questions and appropriate scales to measure responses. So I want you to focus on several things, right? I mean, two things actually. First, the types of questions. First one, for first kind of question is the closed-ended questions. This includes rating scales and multiple choice options, making it easy to quantify responses. For example, I mean, it's a very basic question, right? How satisfied were you with your check-in experience? With options from, let's say, 1 from very dissatisfied to 5 very satisfied. That's closed-ended questions. Now, open-ended questions, on the other hand, allow guests to share detailed feedback on their own word. A question like, what could we have done to improve your stay, provides qualitative insight, like similar to some of the online reviews, but asking directly what you need, like you remember the primary data. Second, the other type of questions is what we call the ranking questions. These help prioritize guest preferences. For instance, a hotel might ask guests to rank amenities in order of importance. Like they give you Wi-Fi, breakfast, gym, or pool. Which one is more important for you? So you can maybe focus on that. These are just some of the examples. There are also different kinds of scales or types of scales. First one is called Likert scale. This is one of the most common, where guests rate their satisfaction on a scale, typically from 1 to 5, 1 to 7, 1 to 10. It depends on the how detailed you want to measure. And each has its own advantages and disadvantages. The second type is the semantic differential scale. This measures guest perception across a range. For example, asking guests to rate staff friendliness from very friendly to very unfriendly. And third one is the binary scale, right? This is simple type, usually yes, no responses, such as would you stay with us again. Now, these are some of the basic examples from the surveys, because I wanted you to get some ideas about what the survey look like, and we have also example in chapter as well. Now we covered a little bit about the survey questions, types and scales. Let's talk about two key factors that determine the survey's effectiveness: when you send them and how you distribute them. Now, survey timing is very important, right? Is because it's capture accurate and meaningful feedback. First one is the transactional surveys. These are sent immediately after a guest interaction to gather feedback on specific experience. For example, hotel might send a post-check-in survey asking, how was your arrival experience? They might be even still in the hotel, right? So these surveys help businesses identify and resolve issues in real time. Relationship surveys, on the other hand, is conducted periodically to assess overall guest satisfaction and loyalty instead of focusing on a single experience. They measure the guest's long-term perception of the brand. A good example is an annual customer of loyalty, sending a basically annual customer loyalty survey asking how likely are you to stay with us again in the next year. It's just an idea. Once you decide on the timing, the next step is selecting the right distribution channel to maximize response rates. I mean, of course, the right now is more and more becoming a common is the email surveys, right? Sent, for example, post-stay. These are most common methods, right? Guests complete them at their convenience, but response rates may vary. In-app surveys, app-based surveys, if the hotel or brand has a mobile app, embedding surveys within the app allows for real-time in-context feedback during the stay, especially with the new generation. This could be more feasible and getting better response rates. You can also place surveys at the checkout counters, lobbies, or dining areas to let guests provide instant feedback while the experience is fresh in their minds. Now, one other option is if you don't have an app, the QR codes provides quick and easy way to guests to access surveys because they just scan it automatically opens the survey. So each distribution method has its strength. The key is to match the right method with the right timing to ensure high participation and valuable insights. Now let's also talk about low response rates. So what is the reason why the guests simply ignore or abandon surveys, and understanding why can help us design better surveys. Some of the common barriers to survey completion is even I have to think a lot about the research I do. The one is the survey fatigue. Guests get bombarded with feedback requests from hotels, restaurants, airlines, and apps. If surveys are too frequent, people start ignoring them, even if it's coming from the same company. I mean, some companies sending several surveys, like for example after you stay. Lengthy or irrelevant questions. Survey that feels like endless questionnaire will discourage responses. Guests don't want to spend more than a couple of minutes filling out forms. Also, it could be a good idea to design in a way it shows how many questions or how many minutes approximately left, right? So people have some some ideas and when it's going to end. Unclear purpose. If customers don't know why they are being asked for a feedback or how it will be used, they are less likely to participate. A privacy concern and technical issues. Some guests worry about how their data will be used, while others may abandon the survey if the format is clunky or difficult to compete on mobile devices. When you design you might design in the computer, but how it's going to look like in mobile devices, for example. So these are some of the tips to encourage survey participation. First, of course, keep survey short and simple. Aim for 2-3 minute completion time with only most important questions. 2, explain the purpose and show gratitude. A brief note at the start, like your feedback helps us improve your experience. Make guests feel their opinion matters. Always thank them for their time. If you can, like if you're gonna, like for example, gonna do SERVQUAL with more questions, try to provide incentives. A small reward, such as a discount on future stay or entry into prize draw, can motivate guests to complete surveys. And also make surveys accessible and relevant. Ensure surveys are mobile friendly, easy to navigate, and personalize the guest experience. For example, don't ask a guest about the spa if they never visited it, right? So with today's technology, it's easier to do those. Now we talk about the SERVQUALs, and let's talk about the other topics quickly. Now, besides the SERVQUAL, these are the two of the most widely used metrics in service quality evaluation. One is the customer satisfaction score, and other is the net promoter score. Before I go into a little bit detail, what's the purpose of customer satisfaction score and net promoter score? Customer satisfaction scores measures how satisfied a guest is with the specific interaction or service, such as check-in, housekeeping, or dining. NPS, on the other hand, is a broader indicator of overall guest loyalty. It tells us whether a customer would recommend the business to others. So CSAT is interaction is focused, right? Is answer the questions like how satisfied were you with, let's say, check-in experience. It's useful for pinpointing the operational strength and weaknesses. NPS is a more of a long-term loyalty. It's asked how likely are you to recommend to our like restaurant or hotel to friend or colleagues. So it's helps businesses to gauge brand advocacy and guest retention. Let's look at take a closer look at the customer satisfaction score. This is one of the most direct ways to measure guest satisfaction. And besides all the separate guest satisfaction scores, which we're gonna give in our example video, you can also calculate to CSAT in a way that shows number of satisfied responses versus the total responses, right? So it could be particular service or experience. It could be check-in, room cleanliness, dining, or another interaction. When you ask the question, for example, how satisfied were you with your dining service? And let's say you decide to use rating scales 1 to 5. 1 is very dissatisfied, 2 somehow dissatisfied, 3 is neutral, 4 is somehow satisfied, 5 is very satisfied. So then CSAT is scored. Basically, you get usually in this kind of example, you can get the very satisfied, but usually you get the 4 and 5, like somehow satisfied, very satisfied. So satisfied people, and you divided them to total of proportion of the total of responses, total of guests. Not the total of guests visiting, but total of guests received this answer this survey. Now, why we use this CSAT is simple and quick. It is easy for guests to answer and for business to analyze. So it's a focused insight. It helps identify specific areas of strength and improvement. And also actionable. If dining, for example, in our example, CSAT scores drop, for example, managers can investigate issues in food quality, service speed, or ambience. So basically, you calculate this, like I'm just making up, 100 people, and let's say 20 is actually very low, but let's say 60 of the people always satisfied. So your score is 60%, right? So if next time you score, measure it, if it's become 40%, now there is something wrong. So you go and investigate. Let's shift our focus to Net Promoter Score, one of the most widely used metrics for measuring guest loyalty and brand advocacy. Unlike CSAT, which focuses on specific interactions, NPS measures overall guest sentiment toward brand or service. So it helps businesses to understand how likely guests are to recommend their experience to others, which is a very strong predictor for long-term success. NPS is based on a single question. The question might change a little bit, but how likely are you to recommend to our hotel, our restaurant, to friend or colleague? So usually guests respond on a scale from 0 to 10, and their answers is categorized into 3 groups. The first group, what we call the promoters, 9 and 10. So basically highly satisfied guests who are loyal and likely to recommend our business. 7 to 8 is the passives, right? Guests who are satisfied but not enthusiastic enough to promote the brand. So they are happy, it's okay, but they don't really care to promoting your business. And the next one is the detractors, unhappy guests who may discourage others from staying. So why we use NPS? Predicts long-term guest retention and word of mouth marketing. Easy to track over time to measure improvements in service and brand perception. If the promoter is getting less and less, then you're gonna have problems soon. And identifies loyal guests who can be encouraged to leave positive reviews or participate in the loyalty programs. And you can contact with them and ask them to please share your thoughts with you, with the internet, and however you can. So far, we covered structured survey-based metrics like customer satisfaction scores and NPS. But businesses can also gain valuable insights through other methods. Like I said, these are not the only methods, right? These are some of the examples. Uh, First one is the mystery shopping. This involves hiring a disguised evaluators to act as a regular guest and assess the quality of service. Mystery shoppers follow a structured checklist and provide feedback on elements like staff behavior, responsiveness, cleanliness, whatever you want to measure it. Uh, uh, Second one is the online reviews and sentiment analysis. In today's digital world, guests frequently share their experiences and complaints on platforms like TripAdvisor, Google Reviews, and Yelp. Of course, you have to take them with a little bit of salt, right? Because usually people with very happy and very upset people usually leave reviews. You have to always consider, but it's a good tools to use, especially people complaining. And if there are more than few people complaining about the same thing, you have to investigate what's going on, what's wrong. So businesses can use like sentiment analysis tools powered by AI to track positive, neutral, or negative trends. And like I said, if there are, like, for example, non-stop people complaining about the slow check-ins, you need to look what's going on. Is it not enough employee? Is there something wrong with the system, etc.? And also, related to online review and sentiment analysis, you should constantly find a way to do social media monitoring. That involves tracking the brand mentions and guest sentiments across platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, right? So, like, hotels can monitor hashtags, comments, customer interactions to identify service gaps, emerging trends, or reputation risks. There are some companies handling this kind of services. It might not be very cheap, but at least you can try to understand what is going on with your company. Okay, thank you once again for watching.